Hey guys, it's Karl. Welcome back to another episode, and today I think I want to talk about smartwatches. It's kind of the piece of tech that people wear more and more often. I always have something on my wrist. You can tell by this really atrocious watch tan. There is typically something always on here, and I thought it would be a great time to talk about the best smartwatches that you can kind of currently get. We've got 5 different ones, and of course the OG watch, which we'll get to at the very end. In no particular order, we'll start off with this one first. It's the one that I've been using lately. This is the Huawei Watch 3 Pro. And what makes this watch great is the build quality first. It kind of really mimics what you've got going on in the original watch scene. So this is my Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean stainless steel, pretty premium design. And I feel like out of all these watches, this one has the most premium feel out of it. So it's made out of polished titanium. It's got a 3D rotating crown. The watch band is really nice, and it has that traditional clasp mechanism. And what I like about titanium, it's still really lightweight. You don't really feel the heft too much. If there would be one thing that I would say, it is slightly on the chunkier end. So this is a 46 mil watch, and if you get a little side profile, it is quite thick. So if you've got a bit of a dainty wrist, I think you might find this a bit too large. But the nice thing, Huawei does make other sizing options. They aren't the Watch 3 Pro. I believe they're the Watch GT line, 42 mils, as well as a 45 and /46 mil option. So kind of depending on your wrist. I'll quickly slip this on to show you. I tend to have a smaller wrist size here. And typically, since I've been using mine, I have had the rubber band on it, but I did swap it out to the titanium just to show you guys. But the thing that I love about this watch the most is the battery life. So typically smartwatches will kind of get through the range every day and a half, maybe 2 days, especially for the Apple Watch. You have to always juice it up. This has a 5-day battery life, but it also has this ultra long battery mode, which can get you up to 21 days, which is pretty ridiculous for a smartwatch. Obviously, you lose some of the functionality with going into ultra long battery mode, but if you go on a trip for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, all the way to 3 times 7, 21, you can theoretically go up to 3 weeks without even charging it, which is great. So the watch is built around Harmony OS, and the first thing since I booted it up, it's surprisingly quick, surprisingly snappy. I've noticed with other Huawei watches or other Android watches in general, the interface, the experience is sometimes a bit slow, sometimes a bit laggy. I have none of that here, and you can obviously operate using your finger or that new little 3D crown up top to select your options. Another great thing Huawei has done is the simplicity to use this outside of the Huawei space or ecosystem. You can just download the Huawei Health app on your iPhone, on your Android device, get this set up, and it works perfectly well and syncs all of your data. You've got hundreds of different watch faces to choose from, and like I mentioned, this is one of the bigger watch faces, so 1.43 inches, an OLED screen, so the display is nice and bright, it's vibrant, and it was actually kind of funny going through all of the different wallpaper options. This actually reminded me of the Mac OS Monterey background, and if anything, this watch kind of looks a bit Apple-esque with its titanium build, and that's a pretty big praise because Apple is known for its design, for its build quality, and I think Huawei is definitely going in the right direction. And one last thing before we move on, the workouts on this watch, and that's typically what I use smartwatches for in general, mostly for working out. This has hundreds of different workout mode options, and that's the limiting factor for a lot of these other watches. For example, for running, you've got 13 different courses. You've got outdoor runs, outdoor walks, outdoor cycling, indoor cycling, pool swimming, open water swimming. The list kind of goes on, and more specifically, they have a weightlifting workout mode, which I think my Apple Watch still to this day does not do properly. The watch pretty accurately tracks calories, steps. You can also track heart rate, SpO2, all that good stuff. And one kind of cool thing about this model, you can also track skin temperature. And I'm not saying, say you've got COVID or some sort of cold, obviously getting a proper test is more beneficial, but just having that extra little peace of mind that you're getting a bit hot, you might get notified, and just having those options is always nice to have. Like I said, this has been one of my favorite smartwatches that I've been using this year, mostly for that premium build, kind of mimics what we've got going on this side. Just ensure that your wrist can handle the chunkiness. Moving on to the next watch, which probably controls most of the market share. It's the one that I think a lot of people know the best. This is the Apple Watch, more specifically Series 7. So I think the Apple Watch needs no introduction. If the Apple Watch department moved away from Apple, it would still be its own Fortune 500 company. It is absolutely massive. They kind of control the market share. Most people have an Apple Watch, and if you have an iPhone, this would be the watch that I would recommend. The nice thing about the Apple Watch is its integratability, its ecosystem. Once you're sucked into the black hole, once you've got an iPhone, once you've got a Mac, once you've got an iPad, all these things talk together. You get your iMessages on here, you get your iMessages on your Apple Watch. The ease of use is what really gets you. And for Series 7, there's a couple new features, one being the design. So on this year, you have a larger display. So this kind of gets pushed out further to the edges. We're reducing bezel sizes. And with this new design, you have the two larger watch face sizes, so either 46 or 42 mils. Apple has claimed that you can now use a QWERTY keyboard texting with your Apple Watch. I still find that really hard to do. I can't quite get the hang of it, but this is the largest Apple Watch design that you can currently get. I will say though, out of all of these, I guess maybe not including the Fitbit, but because I'm an OG watch guy, because I love traditional circular designs, I still cannot get on board with a square or rectangle look. There's just something about it that seems a bit strange that I just can't do. I think that's totally personal preference, but let me know what you guys think. Do you prefer circular? Do you prefer square? I don't know. If you don't care about that at all, I will give Apple huge credits for customization. So across all of these, you can see this actually is the only one that has a blue strap, and you can swap that out for pretty much any color you can think of, any material that you can think of. I'm more partial to rubber because I tend to wear them when I work out, but you've got stainless steel Milanese options, you've got sport loop bands, you've got Velcro, you have the $1,000 Hermes leather bands if you want. Customization options are endless, along with the different finishes. So of course, aluminum being the cheapest, you can upgrade to stainless steel. They've even got titanium options. And once again, if you want to go ultra baller, I think they have a limited edition Hermes model. Not saying that you should drop your money on it, but the options are always there. Another great thing that I have to say about Apple Watch is because so many people have them, you're once again in that ecosystem and you are kind of tied to closing your rings. There are so many people that have mentioned that they're working out to simply close the rings. And if you need that extrinsic motivation, if you're just starting out a New Year's resolution to stay in shape, I think the Apple Watch is a great place to start. You can challenge your friends, you can push yourself to close your rings, and they make a great integration into Apple Fitness or Apple Fitness Plus if you choose to buy that extra membership. Once again, just like most of these watches, you can track steps, you can track heart rate, you can track SpO2. Honestly, my recommended spec for an Apple Watch, if you're interested, the Apple Watch SE still has the best value. You don't get the always-on display, slightly smaller screen. You don't get the SpO2 measure, but I rarely use that. I would save the extra money, grab the SE, and you can use that extra dough to buy a pair of AirPods, maybe even buy a case, any other accessories. But yeah, the Apple Watch is solid, definitely makes any smartwatch list. Moving on to a bit of exclusivity and maybe one of the cooler smartwatches. This is the Fossil Times Razor Watch. More specifically, the Gen 6 smartwatch, and this unit is actually pretty cool because it's a limited edition model. There's only elite models available. 1337 for all of you peeps just wondering. So this was announced this year at CES, and I actually worked on a project with Fossil to kind of showcase this watch, told all the features at the Razer booth, and yeah, a really cool limited edition watch. If you can manage to snag one by the time this video goes live, yeah, you will have one of the most limited watches that you can get. This one's really cool because you can see some of the iconic Razer watch faces. So we've got the Chroma theme going on, and this is also compatible with Google's Wear OS 3, which kind of just dropped at the end of 2021. I think this is a low-key favorite sleeper of mine. So it actually comes with two different watch straps, the traditional black and also the bright green iconic razor look. So this has a 44mm watch face, a 1.2-inch display, and out of all of these, I actually think this one fits my wrist the best. It kind of just looks right. It has some of the traditional stopwatch or chronograph buttons on the side. Program them to your favorites. So I've got my top one set to fitness, of course the middle one just to go back to the menu system, and the last one to make payments via NFC. Snappiness, it's nice and quick with Wear OS 3, and it does have 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of onboard storage. Health-wise and sensors, it's got all the goodies packed in. So of course, heart rate, SpO2, you can track steps, all that good stuff. And overall, this watch out of all of them just feels the most at home on my wrist. I think that's pretty hard to kind of describe on video, but it isn't too big, it isn't too chunky, and I love the OG chronograph buttons on the side. That's coming from my little hardcore OG watch fan, and if you own one of these 1337 models, you are part of a very exclusive club, and it seems that exclusivity is all the rage these days. On to the next one. This is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4. And here, once again, I've got to give huge shout outs to Samsung. They've actually switched over from Tizen, and they are now integrated into that Google ecosystem. So of course, Wear OS 3, just like we saw over on the Fossil Razr watch. So this watch out of all of them has the beefiest specs inside. So 1.5 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard storage. It also has some really cool touch sensitivity around it. So obviously you've got the traditional user interface. You can kind of swipe through, you can select what you're choosing to go through the watch, but the bezel also has touch sensitivity. So when you actually swivel around the bezel, that's what gets you through all of the different tiles. And Samsung is just introducing new ways to interact with your watch. And I actually think that's nicer than a rotating bezel, because it's a smartwatch after all, and you are interacting with the face a lot. The face itself, 44 mils, a 1.4-inch OLED display, and just like the Razr watch, this one kind of just feels right on my wrist. And in terms of health and fitness tracking, it's got all the sensors and all the goodies that most of these watches have. But in terms of actual tracking, I found the Samsung one to over-exaggerate not only steps, but caloric expenditure. And I'm not too sure what calculation Samsung is using, but I found that around 15 to 20% more calories burned, and even sometimes 10% more steps than any of these watches. So maybe that's something that can be fixed in, say, a software update. But on the flip side, it can track some pretty unique things like fat percentage, body muscle. Once again, that's just kind of sending a signal around when you touch the diodes. And it can also track your snoring patterns. So if your significant other or the person beside you is snoring, slap this on their wrist and tell them they've been snoring all night long. On to the last smartwatch. This is a Fitbit, and a lot of people give Fitbits flack for not being a true smartwatch, but on the flip side, this is the cheapest watch across all of these. You can get Fitbits for around $100, and if you just want a simple smartwatch, we'll kind of put that in quotes, because technically the functionality on Fitbits is less than what you have, say, on a dedicated smartwatch. You can still get all of your phone and text notifications, but you can't have any of that extra advanced functionality. But if you're looking for something that helps track your fitness, helps track your steps, your caloric expenditure, can track what you do throughout the day, and you want something simple with the no frills and extra features and extra price that these command, I still think Fitbits make a solid option. And you can argue with me that there's technically not a true smartwatch, but just wanted to include that there. And before we end, not a smartwatch, it's an OG watch. It's the thing that I wear most of the time. It is my traditional smartwatch in a sense. It can only track time, it can track how long you are underwater with this little rotating bezel, but the best part, you never have to charge this guy ever. Since I've got this 3 years ago, you technically can't charge it, and that's what I love about it. But anyways, a lot of you were asking what watch that I rock. This is the Seamaster Planet Ocean. Once again, little bits of orange throughout, and yeah, I always have to have something living on my wrist, hence the dirty watch tan, and I tend to switch to my smartwatches usually when I work out. So yeah, that's kind of the end of this vid. Let me know what your favorite smartwatch is for this year down below in the comments, and hopefully you found one that kind of suits or fits your needs, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.